careful, Johnny. Don't you slip up or play the fool. Oh no, Mom. Oh no, Dad. I'll be your golden boy. I will obey every golden rule.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Atheist Experience. I'm Matt Delaney. Joining me this week, Jennifer Peoples. How you doing?
Good.
So we're going to talk about morals.
Yeah. I wanted to do this show because we've been getting a lot of emails and comments on the blog about theists coming in and talking to us about atheists and morals.
Right.
And the old atheist claim was that, well, there can be no morality without God. And, theists generally don't believe in, well, some of them don't believe in evolution, but ironically enough, their claims have evolved.
Right.
And so the new claim is, okay, we agree you guys have morals, but you don't know why you have morals. You have no objective reference for right and wrong. Therefore, it's just based on your preference, and you could change your mind tomorrow.
Yeah, and there's a kind of a side claim with this. Paul in Romans talks about how God has written his moral code into the heart of everybody. So when I had a conversation with relatives, I was expecting well, you're atheist, so you're immoral. You have no morals. Mm-hmm. And instead they said, no, you're moral. And it's because God told you how to be moral.
Yeah.
You just don't realize it.
Yes, that's the other assertion is that...
Funny that I disagree with him so often.
Yeah, if you do have some claim to some objective moral sense, it's because you borrowed it from Christianity.
Right.
So, their assertion is that God and their specific God is the source of morality. And without this, we don't have any objective basis for that. And so what I wanted to talk about today was how do we develop the ability to make moral judgments? Where does that come from? And in short, it has nothing to do with religion. It's really a product of evolution, our ability to reason. But it's a little more than that. So before we get into that, I want to go through some definitions.
Okay.
First of all, when we say morals, what do we mean by that? Well, really, morals are the principles of behavior that are based on our concepts of right and wrong. And then sometimes we talk about ethics in relation to morals.
Right.
Ethics refers to a system of rules that we follow where we've attributed values to behaviors by judging them good or bad according to either their intrinsic moral qualities or concrete social consequences. So there's a little bit of a difference there. Morals are the actual behaviors, and ethics is the system of rules that we follow that we use to judge whether something's good or bad. Now there's another concept I want to talk about, which is empathy. Empathy is basically the identification with and understanding of another person's situation, essentially the ability to put yourself in someone else's psychological frame of reference.
Right.
So you can understand their feelings, their actions, their motives, and then those become somewhat predictable. Okay. So where do we get our morals? Well, the short answer is they're a gift from our parents. And I'm not going to go through a lot of the basis behind the idea that altruism is something that evolved, because I think other people have covered that pretty well in previous shows. But I'll just say that, as I mentioned before, it's a product of our ability to reason, which is itself a product of evolution. So it's in the genes. But it's more than that. We all know that genes confer only potential. So just because you have a genetic ability to do something doesn't mean that ability is going to manifest. And this is particularly true when we talk about any kind of behavioral attribute like moral judgment or other aspects of personality, your sense of humor, things like that. It also is a byproduct of parenting skills and also brain development. So when we talk about how do we know that a child is on the path to developing good moral judgment? Well, you can look at an infant. The first outward manifestation of empathy occurs at around 10 months. And so you'll have a 10-month-old child sitting in a high chair happily eating Cheerios, and then they offer you one. Because for the first time they understand that you might be hungry too.
Right.
so they're going to give you one of the Cheerios. And the interesting thing about this is that people noticed this a long time ago, but they didn't put it together with what's going on in a kid's brain at that time. What's happening is the ability to use a specific part of your brain as you're growing through infancy depends on developing a myelin sheath around those nerves. And so what's happening is myelination of the frontal cortex, which is where our higher centers of reasoning originate. So that's what's happening at around 10 months. It actually starts around 8 months. And so enough myelination has occurred at around 10 months for the child to exhibit empathy. So there's a neurobiological basis for it, as well as a psychological basis that's based on a parental bond. So we've got genetics, parenting, brain development. And so the other thing that happens is as children grow through young childhood, they naturally develop a strong desire to please their parents. And that desire to please their parents provides a very powerful incentive to adopt their parents' system of values. So parents then are transmitting their personal values to the children by the way they parent them. Now, we know that this moral development can be derailed by neglect and abuse.
Right.
And we see this in cases of reactive attachment disorder, where something happens to disrupt the parental bond, usually in infancy, but most certainly in the first 5 years of a child's life. And it can be neglectful parenting, and it can be an abusive environment. It could be something as simple as chronic pain that the parent is either unable or unwilling to take care of. And an example that's given for that is like a chronic undiagnosed ear infection, which is kind of scary when you think about, how often kids can get ear infections. The difference is that this is something that goes on, it causes the child chronic pain, and the parent either is not aware that that's going on, or they for whatever reason don't address it. So that can produce reactive attachment disorder, and in this case, a child doesn't develop empathy. So they have no means of putting themselves in another person's shoes and understanding another person's point of view.
So ear infections breed sociopaths?
No.
Okay. Just wanted to see how far we were going to extend that.
No, that's just one example that was given, and I'm sure that doesn't happen very often. But another thing that can disrupt the parental bond actually is some kind of chronic illness in childhood, like cancer, that involves a lot of painful treatments. And in that case, the parent really would be pretty powerless to intervene in that. And so that could actually produce some type of attachment disorder.
And I would suppose that just crappy, neglectful parents.
Yes, that's the most often.
Probably would be the biggest one.
Yeah, that's the most often the cause of this attachment disorder. So my guess is if you looked at the prison population, most of them had parents who were either poor parents because they were too young, or they were addicted to drugs, or they were just jerks. Maybe they were the victims of poor parenting themselves. So. Now, the interesting thing about this is that there's a straw man that's often put up there by some theists that come around to debate us, that talk about, you don't understand why something is good or bad. And this sort of straw man that they construct of atheist morality sounds a lot like a kid that has reactive attachment disorder. Because they're saying, yeah, you follow the rules, but you don't know why the rules exist. Which actually is a good description of a kid with attachment disorder, because often they can follow the rules. They know rules exist, but they don't know why.
Right.
And since they don't have any empathy for someone, they can't put themselves in another's shoes. So I just want to point that out, that there's like this straw man that some of the theists we deal with construct in order to justify that we have to turn to their version of Christianity in order to be good.